Board Offline. Today we're bringing you our annual best games of all time. Now this is the 2019 edition, of course, and we are getting into 30 games this time around. I've played 155 games at this point, so 30 gives us about 20% of my games that I've played. So the top 20%, what I consider the best of the games that I've played. With those 155 games, I've gotten 1,327 plays since I started keeping track in April of 2014. I spent 1,014 hours playing these games and have an H-index of 19. For those of you who don't know what H-index is, basically that means I've played 19 games at least 19 times. So without anything else, we're pretty much going to get straight into it. If you do want to support the channel, be sure to find links in the description below, including some Amazon links to purchase games. A little bit of that will go to the channel. You can find these shirts at Mr. Meeple. Those links are in the channel as well. And you can also buy your Bored Cthulhu t-shirts from Geeky Goodies in the description as well. So now let's get right into it. We're going to go through the first 10, 30 through 21. And of course, we do everything by the minute. So we're going to do the first 10 in 10 minutes, starting right now. Okay, so number 30 is Friday. Now, this is the first time Friday's been on the list. Now, in the past, I have not done a list extended way out beyond the number that I'm actually going to. I did this year, so next year we'll be able to kind of keep looking and see where games fell on an extended list as well. Friday, though, while it's been on my list, it's never quite made it into the top, at least last year it didn't, for the top 25, I believe it did. So Friday is a deck building game where it's very abstracted out, but basically you are helping Robinson Crusoe, who's crash landed on this island, and he's completely helpless without you. And now what you're doing is trying to get him, basically teach him how to survive. And he starts out with terrible, terrible cards. And then as you work with him, he gets better and better. And hopefully you can survive. And eventually at the end of the game, you will fight some pirates. Again, very abstracted out, but a lot of fun. Solo only for this game. It's not multiplayer at all. And it is definitely one of my favorites. Dead of Winter is number 29. Now, this was number 14 last year. This one has been pretty steadily dropping, mainly because I have just played it so much, and so many other games have started slipping their way in. This was a staple at one of my game groups for a long time. It's a zombie game where everybody is technically on the same team, but maybe there's a traitor, but maybe there's not. And even if there's not a traitor, people have their own secret objectives while also trying to complete the main objective. And there's just so much table talk going on, trying to work with each other, or are you really trying to work with me? I don't know. And there's so many different characters. You have your own group that's your group. And so, you're trying to get them to survive and get to the end of the game with them without dying. Every time you die, morale drops, and then you're also worried about the zombies at the gates, but they're not really the main threat usually, except sometimes you might have to go out there. And there's a die that you roll if you travel without using gasoline, meaning without using a vehicle. You have to roll this die, and you might get frostbite, you might get wounded, or you might just die like that with one roll. Really, really fun game, Dead of Winter. Spectre Ops is my number 28. This is brand new on the list. I've had Spectre Ops for a while. It's one that I have not played in a while, but I keep wanting to get it back to the table. This is one that says it goes up to 5 players. Don't ever play with 5 players. It's garbage at 5. Well, it's not garbage at 5 players, but it's the 5th player is really kind of the odd man out and really doesn't have a whole lot to do after a certain point in the game, because they are a traitor to the guys trying to find so it's a hidden movement game where one person, you can't see them on the board, everyone else is trying to find them. Well, in a 5-player game, you have a second hidden person that starts out on the bad guy's team and then flips teams. It's just not a good thing. But you play with 4 or less, and this game really just is fantastic. You have different objectives that the hidden person is trying to get to. There's all kinds of special powers. Both the bad guys and the good guy has special powers, and the cool thing is the bad guys don't really know what the special powers are going to be that they're facing until they see the person for the first time, and then they know what's going on. There's flashbang grenades and all kinds of cool stuff going on. That's Spectre Ops. Number 27 is Charterstone. Now this one has really dropped off. It was number 6 last year. Last year when it was number 6, I was in the middle of my campaign for Charterstone. And this is a legacy game where instead of destroying stuff, you are building a village. Now, I haven't actually played it since we completed the campaign. The campaign was so much fun, and we just haven't had the drive to try it out after completing the campaign. And so this one just kind of dropped off, but just because we just don't feel the need to play it anymore. It had the back of the board is a complete fresh slate, so you can get a recharge pack and play it again. I want to do that and try it out solo and play again, and with 5 bots, and just see what kind of village develops that way. That could be a lot of fun. That's Charterstone number 27. Number 26 is Dawn of Peacemakers. This is brand new to the list. This one is a game where instead of fighting a war, you're trying to end it. Now, ending it might be bloody as well. You are, one of several different characters that are kind of going back and forth between the 2 to 3 warring factions on the board, and you're trying to make sure that neither of them routs the other one. You're trying to make sure that they kind of have equal losses and that their morale starts dropping, and eventually, instead of having one of them routed and retreat, you want to have both of them kind of lose morale at the same time, and kind of the battle just ends with neither side really feeling like they've really been super successful, with the end goal being that neither really ends up with a leg up on the other one. And you have all kinds of cards that you play, and different things are unlocked. There's lots of unlockable stuff in this game. I wouldn't call it a legacy game. It's more of a campaign game, but the stuff does come hidden away in boxes in order to help keep it spoiler free when you initially open the box. That's Dawn of Peacemakers, my number 26. Number 25, Euphoria, also new to the list. Even though this is not a new game to me, it's because it's been hovering around this range right here the entire time, and my list just hasn't extended out far enough for it to make it on there. Euphoria is a worker placement game from Stonemaier Games, where there's some sort of dystopian future, and there's 4 different groups that have kind of risen out of the ashes of this dystopian future. One lives in floating cities, one lives in this main city, one lives underground, one lives out in the wastelands, and they're kind of in this economy together, kind of working together. But your main thing is that you're trying to have this balance between your workers gaining knowledge so that they're more efficient and effective, but not too much knowledge to where they realize that they're just cogs in this machine, and they flee from your utopia. You use dice for workers, and it's a ton of fun. That is Euphoria. Number 24 is Keyforge, also brand new to the list. Keyforge is, I heard it recently described by the guys over the Dice Tower as Magic the Gathering for lazy, no, not the Dice Tower, for the Boards Alive guys. Magic the Gathering for lazy people. It is basically, imagine, you've got these decks of cards that you kind of like in Magic the Gathering, you have a deck that you create, right? Well, in this one, you buy the deck already pre-built, and every single deck in existence is different. Now, some might be very, very similar, but none of them are exactly the same. And there's all kinds of different factions. Every deck, I believe, has 3 different factions mixed in. And one of the key things is kind of figuring out how these decks work together, or how the cards in the deck work together. And now they're coming out with new factions, and they're getting a new release, and every deck has its own crazy name. And it is a lot of fun, super easy to figure out. But then once you figure out how to play, you're working on figuring out how that deck works, or do you want to stick with this one, or do you want to go buy another random deck and you don't know what's in it until you buy it. A lot of fun. That is Keyforge. Number 23 is The Mind. Now, The Mind, I gotta catch up here. The Mind is a game where no one talks, and you have a deck of cards 1 through 100, and you deal out a certain number of cards, and then whoever has the lowest card plays theirs first without talking. And the next person up plays theirs. And if you ever play out of order, you lose a life. And if you lose all your lives, game over. And you have ninja stars where you can all vote to play a ninja star, and then everybody discards their lowest card to give you an idea of where everybody's at. And then you stop talking again, or I really should have started, but nobody's talking now, and we continue playing now, and play whoever has the lowest plays it. And it's this really intense, as you start climbing the ranks, because if you beat one round, the next round, everybody has one additional card than they did the last time. And once you beat a certain number of rounds, you win the game. Super intense, a lot of fun. Number 22 is Mechs versus Minions, one of the most overproduced games of all time, and it is so much fun. It is a programming game where you're going around this board just wiping the floor with hundreds of minions that are coming out as you try to complete these objectives. Your characters can't actually die, which is pretty cool, but they're in Mechs versus Minions, and as the minions deal them damage, they start malfunctioning to an increasing extent. And I guess there are a couple of different ways that you could technically die, but if you die, game over. And it's a campaign game, again, not a legacy game, even though there are some envelopes that you kind of have to cut to get into. So, I mean, if you're gonna say you're damaging the envelopes, so therefore it's legacy, I guess, but not really. This is a campaign game with unlockable components, and so much fun. That was Mechs vs. Minions number 22. And finally, The Others coming in at number 21, also new to the list, also because it's been hovering in this general area. This is one that I started thinking about more and more recently. You need to get it back to the table. It was so much fun. There was a point where I wanted to collect all the factions. Never really did that, did collect quite a few of them. And it's a one versus mini game where the world has been overrun by these the 7 deadly sins that have been embodied in these grotesque figures, and they've corrupted nuns and police officers and gangsters and doctors and all kinds of stuff. And you have biker gangs that are the good guys, and you have like half demon, half human people that are the good guys, and but they can take on corruption so that they're more powerful, but you don't take on too much corruption because that's really bad. And that is my number 21, The Others. So next time we will come back with our 20 through 11. Really excited to bring this list to you. This was a lot of fun making. I always have fun making these lists. Again, if you want to support the channel, be sure to check the description below for various ways you can do that. And until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.